rap music and imbongi. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but that's how I'm going to pronounce it for this video. Okay. Imbongi was not something that Black Americans heard in the United States of America. So, no, rap did not come from imbongi. Okay. That is something that Black Americans would not ever know. Or, yeah, that's not something that we would ever know about. Okay. Over here. Okay. So, no, rap music did not come from imbongi. Now, when people say something comes from Africa or something comes from Europe or something comes from, they aren't meaning directly from, because there's no freaking way. Okay. That's an impossibility, and the reason why that's an impossibility is because the ocean, there were no TVs, cell phones, there was no way to connect two whole different worlds together. Okay, so people weren't peeping in and saying, oh, let's do that. So that's a common sense thing. Okay, what they're saying is there's certain genetic ties in like rhythm and emotion. For instance, you can take Europeans. They're more subdued in their emotion. They don't get really, you can go over there and it's like, you know. Whereas in many countries in Africa, they're way more emotional. Way you can, it's elevated. Okay, whereas not in Europe, and that type of thing, or even with muscles. Okay, um, black people, African people tend to have more of a muscle twitch, and when they dance, you can see the twitch. Or sprinting. That's why they're faster sprinters. Okay, Black Americans, Jamaicans, super fast sprinters, the fastest sprinters on earth. Okay, you don't see that much in Europe. They can run fast, but in comparison, no, there's no comparison. You see what I'm saying? So there's certain things that flow within a certain people. Okay, and so this is what they're saying. So that's the same thing with um, rap. Rap does not come from Imbongi. What they're saying is the type of rhythms and the type of uh, poetry and stuff like that, and speaking to the people. Um, I believe Imbongi is more traditional type, ancestral thing, and rap is different, but they're connecting it with rhythm. If you're going to connect to rhythm, you're going to say that every type of music in Africa came from Imbongi, and that's just not true. That's not true. Okay, but in that continent, there's a certain type of rhythm that goes on between all of them. Okay, and in the African diaspora, that's shared. For the most part, it's shared. Okay, but the genre of rap, because over here, ever since the very beginning, we had our own poets in the United States of America. Black Americans had their own poets. We had our own speakers. We had our own. We had no idea what was going on the continent of Africa. Like I said, the globe wasn't connected. So when people say from, you have to, everything has context. Everything has context. Rap did not come from Mbongi. But when musicians and historians and people who look back, they say, oh, this is very similar. They have this similar type of rhythm over here. This group in Africa and out of Africa, a lot of them share the same type of rhythm. Okay, you can say the same thing for reggae. Oh, the rhythm, the rhythms and the stuff, the rhythms, of course. That's what it means. It doesn't mean that rap came from Mbongi, because Black Americans didn't even know what that was probably till this week. I mean, I know I didn't. I actually went back to listen. I said, "What? What is this? What is this?" And so then I went back to listen to what Mbongi was, and I was like, "No, no, this is completely taken out of context." We had jazz poetry over here. Okay, now we have a direct. When it comes to Black America, everything in Black American music comes from our previous music. Okay, from hymns to gospel, you got in every bounce, and we always connected with it. Even when rap began, it was connected with R&B. We would mix it, and there was funk, there was all that. It's all connected, right? And so you know exactly where it came from. You can't really disconnect it. But there was nothing. And Bongi wasn't something. Yeah, that's my first time hearing it this week. No idea. And it doesn't sound like rap. Nothing like rap. So yeah. So understand context, because if you understand Quincy Jones liked to jump continents, and he liked to find similarities between things. And in his day, there were a lot of people always trying to make a connection toward Africa in some kind of way. That was the thing. It's not today, as we can see. But yeah. So rap did not come from Mbongi. Rhythms, call and response, certain things like that, the things that we do as African people of the diaspora and of Africa, the things that we do, and certain things like that, such as singing when we work. Okay, that goes on the continent of Africa, and my forefathers who were enslaved sang in the fields the whole time. Okay, but the genres, they they didn't direct each other. No, that's false. You have to understand context.